Hello again, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans, and we're talking a review of Unbreakable here, and a little bit of updates regarding Rebellion. We will get through the Rebellion stuff toward the end, or basically at the end, basically. So we'll mostly be reviewing the Unbreakable show tonight. I think most of the the qualifying matches went the way that I thought mostly they would, but I did feel like the who got pinned in the first one, I was kind of like a little bit confused by in some ways, but I think that there's probably some feud there to go ahead with the Rascals and the System. So I think that will kind of make up for it, because I thought, oh, JDC's taking the pin here for sure in the first one between Young, Wentz, and JDC. But yeah, whatever. Still, I think that was fine. I didn't really know or feel like I knew who was taking the pin in the second one. So it was interesting to see who kind of took the pin there. Um, you know, and yeah, I think, again, the two people that I expected to win, as I sort of said, Eric Young and Steve Macklin did win. So it doesn't really matter who gets pinned, but sometimes, when you're trying to do something, you're trying to tell this story. So there has to be something in that. So anyway, Moose then had his match. I thought for a second this was for the X Division, but it's an X Division match for a potential title shot, I guess it was. I said that Moose was probably going to win this because it was like, well, he's got an unnamed opponent, and almost any time that you have an unnamed opponent, it's basically like there's no way the unnamed opponent is going to win. The unnamed opponent was Sydney Akeem. Never seen him before, never heard of him before. I'm sure that he's been around before or whatever else it is, and some people know exactly who the hell this guy is. I don't know anything about him. He did put on a decent showing, though, in this match. He got a fair amount in there in this match. Though I did know, I think maybe there was some issues there and he made a few little botches and whatnot. But that happens. I'm not here to criticize somebody. Shit happens. But when you do see that stuff, it's like, well, again, let's not, let's not bring somebody in that, isn't ready. And maybe it was nerves or whatever it was. Who knows? I don't know. But again, this is the sort of expectation that you have to have from the audience or whatever else it is, or from, people who watch these shows. If you're going to bring some virtually unknown person in, which is where I think this guy is. He's probably very big on the indies, or somewhat known on the indies, but he's not very well known nationally or internationally. And he probably won't be unless he, has a lot more of a showing for himself in the future. So we'll have to wait and see what becomes of him, and what becomes of, these sorts of things, and where that's sort of going. So, but yeah. Those matches went, I think, the way that I expected. The 6-man tag team match, Mike Santana and the Hardys versus Nick and Ryan Nemeth, and Mustafa Ali, didn't really go the way that I thought it would, because I thought, the Nemeth brothers basically have to win this. If they don't win this, they look like chumps. So therefore, they're winning with Mr. Ali, but they didn't, so now they really look like chumps. And I've got no belief in them winning the belts at Rebellion. And yeah, I was thinking they might have a chance to win, or you might have a minute to say, oh yeah, well, they might do something, or whatever else it is. It's going to be nice match or whatever else it is, but at the end of the day, now you've kind of already taken the bloom off the rose of them. They didn't really do a whole lot as a tag team after they kind of turned heel. You haven't given them any significant momentum going into this, so it's like, well, like if they win, it's by out of the blue type thing, which I don't love, but it wouldn't be horrible, but like it wouldn't really solidify them too well. Like, again, I guess they are heels and that's what heels can do, but again, it's just one of those things that if you have some level of legitimacy, then it does feel like, oh, well, we can feel where this is going. But then again, they did the same thing with the Elegance duo and whatnot. They basically made them lose until they somehow won the titles or whatever it was. So I don't know. Like, again, I hope they don't extend it for that long of period of time. But you're continuing to tell this story in an interesting way with Mustafa Ali and Mike Santana, and we'll get more into that later on. Joe Hendry and Master Slam versus Frankie Kazarian and Tessa Blanchard. Like, I thought that this would go the other way with, like, again, Kazarian and Tessa getting the win. Again, the baby faces being in more jeopardy, and then you having to be like, oh crap, how's, Joe Hendry gonna, defend his title now because he's lost again, and Marsha's also lost again, and that sort of thing. I don't really want to talk too much about Rebellion quite yet, and actually I might have changed my mind on the match between Marsha and Tessa, I think, but I will talk more about that maybe a bit later on in another video, but not probably in this one. But again, yeah, I think that this was, like, both of these matches, the six-man and this match, I think that was a bit of a sort of a misstep there. I don't think it's horrible, but again, I do think that when you don't legitimize a tag team, that's really bad. Like, of course, Tessa and Kaz aren't a tag team, but like when you're like giving your baby faces unnecessary wins, sometimes it's like, well, they really need more jeopardy. They need more jeopardy. And it's like, every time you always need them to be like feeling like, oh, like, I don't know if they're going to win. They've lost and they've lost and they've lost in all these tag matches and that. Maybe that doesn't translate well to a singles match, but still, like, there is that sense of some sort of jeopardy there. So, yeah, I still think that, like, not having these matches reversed, like the winners reversed, was a bit of a misstep in decision or booking or whatever else you want to say. But it's like one of those things. I get you've got to try to send the crowd home happy. So it's like, well, I get that. So it's not always me saying I have to be right about like a prediction. It's me saying, well, this is like, if you're thinking logically and you're trying to get like the babyface to a certain point and the heel to a certain point, it's like, okay, well, this makes sense. That's why this is my prediction, not just because, I'm thinking, oh, I have to be right in my prediction. Like, it doesn't. Like, it just helps, like, it make more sense, I think. So it's one of those things. I don't know, this was one of, like, the big matches of the night. I think, like, the next match, Barbed Wire Massacre, was the match of the night. This was, like, a absolutely bloody affair between these two. I thought that Mace was going to win this one. I'm not sad in some ways. Oh, I'm obviously not sad in some ways that he lost or whatever, or that I got it wrong. But again, it's sort of like, well, you have this new young guy kind of thing, and you're bringing him in, and like in some ways, wins and losses do matter, and it's one of those things that he lost here, but then again, he had a really good showing in this, absolutely brutal match, and like, that's something. Like, sometimes you can win in loss type thing. This happened with a few wrestlers before, where they look so good in a match, or they have such a good performance in a match, that the fact that they lost is kind of irrelevant. They just had the match of the night type thing. So it's like, well, yeah, that's one of those things that, can continue to put you over and can continue to put that stamp on you and whatnot, and your stamp on things. So, and I don't know, it would be interesting to continue to see something else for like some of these guys. But then again, it's like, well, I don't know. It's like, well, because again, you've got to have something. Like, is Callahan going to do anything more? Like, or is he sort of stepping back, like, or maybe he's going to work with somebody else. Like, I don't know. But again, like, same sort of thing. Like Mace is obviously going to be working with other people. So now he's got to find, that next opponent and whatnot. But when and where that kind of happens is, unknown in some ways. So wait to see more about that. But yeah, absolutely insane stuff. I think the most insane sort of spot or whatever it was where Callahan stapled Warner's tongue to the door and then used a steel chair wrapped in barbed wire to hit the door off of his tongue, effectively, that it was still stapled to the door. That was absolutely crazy spot. Like, that was insane. Lots of blood in this one. Very bloody. Like, I think, like, out of the matches, like, I don't know, like, I never say, like, this is a 5-star, war or whatever, a 5-star death match or whatever. But I still think that this is, like, the 5-star match of the night. It's definitely, like, a 4-star, 4.5, something like that sort of style match. Like, if you're into hardcore style stuff. But yeah, lots of like creative spots in this one and stuff to do, and a few callbacks, some nice callbacks. Sami Callihan with the the Mankind Mick Foley outfit tonight with the white suit and tie. So that's a nice sort of throwback in some ways and an homage in many ways. So that was kind of cool as well. Not just all about the blood and the violence. Like a few years ago, he had the Cactus Jack garb on, so that was another little reference. So we know who one of his sort of favorites, I guess, is or whatever. The final of the TNA International Championship. By the way, oh my God, I hope you guys saw a good look of that title belt, because it is looking freaking schmick, boy. That was very, very lovely belt. The blue strap, very interesting. I like the idea of each sort of belt kind of getting its own kind of color strap. That's kind of, something interesting to kind of do. Like, not just they're all black, like the women's one is white. From history, like the first women's title was white. So it's like, or at least in TNA it was. Actually, I think one of like the original like women's titles was white as well, but whatever. So I think that might have been a New Japan one, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, but I'm trying to think of like other belts that have had a blue strap, and I can't think of very many. I'm sure there are some, but I can't think of many. I just noticed a while back that Moose's X Division title has like kind of a almost gold kind of tan kind of colored belt. It's more golden tan than like black or whatever. So that's interesting. That is interesting. I think the Knockouts titles being red, or the tag titles being red, and like the the tag team titles, the men's tag teams titles also being red, that also, having that red strap, interesting as well. Like, again, it sort of helps you, like, that color coordinating. The black belt is the world title belt. Like, so again, that kind of, and I'm pretty sure this title belt was designed. I'm not 100% sure, so I hope somebody can actually come out and say, hey, yes, it was whoever it was, or if it wasn't, or whatever, same thing, whoever it was that designed that belt. But I'm pretty sure it was the same person or people that designed the new series of TNA titles. So that belt is looking absolutely lovely, and yeah, this final was a pretty darn good match, even though it was like fairly, like, actually it was probably the longest of the triple threat matches, but it was still fairly short. I think they probably could, like some of the other matches and probably the Barbed Wire Massacre especially, because that was pretty long. Um, you know, and some of the other stuff that kind of was on the card, it kind of like ate up a lot of time. So it's like, yeah, but then again, you could have had the show go on for another like few minutes or whatever it was, or another half an hour or something. I don't know, but whatever. Um, but then again, you would match would start to get kind of a little bit old, um, in some ways, because there's only so many things that you can kind of do. But then again, you could do some more interesting things, like, or whatever. But I'm dancing around the fact of who won wasn't the person that I expected. I expected EY to win, 100%. I thought it would be EY. But then I thought about it when Macklin won, and I thought, you know what? The thing about Macklin is, like, they've been trying to give him something to do, like, while he's not champion. And, like, I don't know that they needed to put a title on this thing or whatever it is, but then again, it's like, well, Macklin barely held that world title when he did win it. And it's like, I think that in some ways, they're giving him this belt to kind of like almost make up for that and say, hey, we know shit's happened, and you didn't get a really good shake at the stick with that, with your title run and whatnot, and we really built it up for a long period of time, and then we decided to do something else and whatnot. And they probably, again, it's tough to say, but it's like, should you have had something for Macklin or something bigger for Macklin at Bound for Glory or whatever it was? I believe it was Bound for Glory. Or was it Slammiversary? I can't remember. I think it was Slammiversary, actually. Maybe it should have been a triple threat between Shelley, Macklin, and Aldis. I don't know, but that kind of takes away from, like, things or whatever else. Or maybe it should have been Macklin and Aldis. I don't know. But then again, it's like, well, I think Aldis makes a whole way better heel than he does a babyface. So that is there. And I think the feud between Shelley and Aldis was really quite good, even though it was pretty short. And it had to come together pretty short and that sort of thing as well. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like, that's where I'm at. I think, like, again, like, now that they actually explain, I actually maybe heard them explain it properly, or they explained it kind of properly. The man that didn't get pinned in this match is now going to get a rematch at Rebellion. So that means that Macklin versus Young is going to happen at Rebellion. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. So they are going to face each other at Rebellion, so we will see that feud culminate there. And it is going to be for the title. And since Macklin has literally just won the title, like, you obviously could, like, flip-flop the title, but I don't think flip-flopping the title is honestly a good thing at this point. you need to have a solid reign for somebody to have that belt. And that's why I felt like you could still put it on EY and he have a solid, decent run. And even if like he didn't pin Macklin or whatever else it was like, well, yeah, he could face Macklin and then shenanigans or whatever else it is. You could still have shenanigans in this match with the Northern Armory, but it's like, if, like, I don't like it when they play hot potato with the titles. I don't think anyone likes it when they play hot potato with the titles. If there is a good enough reason to do that, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, you can do that in some ways if you're trying to tell some sort of story, but you could tell the story from this point of anyway. You could have put the belt on EY. Yeah, I get that it kind of could get more heat if he steals it off Macklin, but again, it's like, well, now you've kind of put the belt on him. Now, like, I always think like it's hard because it's like, again, now you're kind of dividing your roster even more, like, again, which is still really, really thin. So it's like, but then again, it's like, well, you need things for people to kind of go up for and to do. So it's like, well, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's a tough sort of set of circumstances in some ways. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to talk about the same sort of thing with the Knockouts tag titles. I feel like they should find a way to defunct those titles, honestly. Like, honestly, like, again, I keep saying it, but it's like, move on. Like, make a secondary women's title, an international women's title. Why not? Let's do that. And then, like, go a different direction for, some of those gals and give them something to work with so that they can build themselves up or whatever else it is. And then, go from there and then put somebody in the world title scene. I don't know. I kind of want to talk more about it with Tessa and with what's her name? So with Marsha. So we will get to talking about the updates for the upcoming show. I did see it, but now I'm not being able to find it apparently. Oh my god, why can't I find things today? Why can't I read things today? We found out that Leon Slater. Oh no, where am I? Leon Slater, Matt Cardona, and El Hijo del Vikingo are going to be joined by Casey Navarro challenging Moose in the X Division Championship Ultimate X. So that is kind of cool to see Casey. I like Casey quite a lot. I don't see him becoming... I can't really see him becoming the next X Division champion, in my opinion. Not right now. Maybe later on down the road, I could see him winning it. But yeah, I kind of would like to see him win it at some point, certainly. Anyway, so also a update to an existing match. The match between Mustafa Ali and Santana is now Falls Count Anywhere. So we will have to wait and see more from that. Elijah has an open challenge, so obviously Elijah's winning that. So because like you don't have X person versus TBA 9 times out of 10, and TBA wins. Fatal Influence, Fallon Henley and JC Jane and Nyman Nix versus Layleen Lee, Rosemary, and Zaya Brookside. This is interesting, but I have the distinct feeling that Rosemary is going to betray Brookside in some form or fashion, and they're going to have a match. This is actually at Rebellion, so it's not happening at Rebellion, so I'm guessing it's later down the road at some point. You're continuing to like pad out this story in some way, so that's kind of interesting. I almost feel like that's gonna be moved down to the pre-show at some point. Though they could put something else on the pre-show. But Knockouts Tag Team Championships fatal four-way tag team match, or 8-woman tag team match, or whatever else you want to call it. I don't know how really to explain it. Ash and Heather by Elegance defend against Jody Threat, Danny Luna, Lash Legend, Jakara Jackson, Gigi Dolan, and Tatum Paxley. So, like, they've been dancing around this kind of match for a while, and it's cool to finally see that, now it's announced, and now it's ready to go, and now it's, like, coming, and now it's, like, it's going to happen, and we know, like, again, that it's, like, this is what's going down. Again, it feels like this is, like, just, like, feud padding a lot of the way, and it, like, I think I said that a little while back, but it is very much like, well, so what type thing. It is just filler match, honestly, for the Elegance group, whatever, to retain the titles, in my opinion. Because, like, Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, Gigi Dolan, and Tatum Paxley, those teams, are they going to hang around TNA for another few weeks even? Like, probably not. They're doing stuff on NXT. Or maybe they're doing stuff on NXT, I don't know. That's what I mean. It's like, and I feel like if they do stick around, it's like, oh, okay, cool, stick around then. Like, type thing. But this is like, it never feels like anyone is sticking around long term from NXT. So it is very much like, well, like, I can't be invested. I cannot invest in you because I feel like you're not sticking around. Like, even if you are sticking around for a little bit longer, it's like, well, I still can't invest anything in you because I can't believe that there's anything more in this than, the next thing that is happening. So this is probably where this is where it's going to end for these guys. Like, they're going to go back to NXT and do whatever they're doing over there. Like, again, so I just don't see it for them. Like, so then we're just going to be going back to, like, Ash and Heather versus the Spitfire for, like, the 500th time or whatever it is. I don't know. That feud has gotten very stale, so it's like, well, kind of time to move on. And this is again why I feel like it's time to try to do something else, in another way, or whatever else it is. And again, like, I still think, like, if you put in Maggie May into the Elegance group, it's kind of like, okay, cool, let's go this way now. And I said this before, I think, like, somewhere, that Heather should just go on her own little thing and try to become Knockouts champion, because it's like, well, even if she's not going to become the champion, it's like she's a really good, like, top level heel boss for other people to go against, that kind of, like, fits up there, and it feels like, this makes sense and whatnot. For people, like, good baby faces to go through, or whatever else it is, or whatnot, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, like, I think beyond this, like, I think the only thing, I sort of said it before, I've kind of flip-flopped in some ways, because I felt like you could do something with Tessa, but, like, the recent reactions that she's kind of got are really bad, guys. Like, it's really bad. And this isn't, like, heel heat. This is, like, this is true go away heat. And at the end of the day, I do feel like, they should they should really take note of this and say, okay, you know what? We gave it a go. We gave it a bash. We gave this person a second chance. like, and maybe end at rebellion. I don't know. That's up to them. But again, I would start saying, okay, the fan, like, this is different from the fans hate this person because they've got good heel heat. No, this is not. This is a problem. And actually, when Triple H said something the other day, this triggered the same thing in my mind here, that fans should shut up and just watch it. In some ways, I agree with that in this regard. We should shut up and leave ourselves out of it. But I think that there's there's too much negativity, and they never really addressed it, and that is the issue. I think if it had been addressed and addressed hard and addressed quickly, then I think fans wouldn't have as much of a problem. I think the fact that this hasn't been addressed and it continually hasn't been addressed, in my opinion, if you're going to be a part of the face of the company, and she has done a lot of promotional work and she's done very professional promotional work. But if you're going to be that person, yes, you can have some of those skeletons in the closet. A lot of people have had those skeletons in the closet, but you need to face up to, even if it's not true, I don't know. I'm not going to pass judgment on whether it's true, whether it's not true, whether, the fly on the wall says whatever, he said, she said, whatever. I don't believe it, only because there is no evidence. If there was physical or some tangible evidence, then I would be 100% behind saying, hey, well, yeah, it's obviously true. She did this thing. But even if she did do this thing, which I don't know whether she did, and I'm not saying she didn't either. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, but whether she did it or not is irrelevant, at this point. What they are trying to do, or what they should have been trying to do, was say, hey, that's irrelevant. That is in the past. She has gone away and she has tried to make amends for this, and we are here to give her a second chance. And they should have said, she needs to apologize and say, hey, look, this is the situation. I have gone away. I have, dedicated myself. And I'm even if she's going to be a heel, this is a out of character interview. This is for the news, and I am going to be, hey, I am here to work, and I am here to do something, and whatever else it is, and that is it, So, I don't know whether that really would have quelled it, but again, it would have been better than not trying to do that. And at this point, again, you've gone too far. You cannot keep the fans in the dark, or not in the dark, but you can't keep that investment in the dark. You cannot keep this person, that's there. Even if they're a heel, there's certain lines that, you sort of have to say can't be sort of crossed in reality. So at that point, it's well, this is beyond the veil of this is a entertainment show for the fans. And I think, and maybe they can extend some stuff and do some stuff with some other people that are on the roster or whatnot. I feel like they could still do that, but I don't think that putting the belt on her is the right decision. There is too much heat. There is too much animosity from the fans. I think that the fans would boycott the shows if she actually won the belt. So that is where I think they've got to pull themselves up and say, all right, no, this just isn't going to work. Like Triple H was kind of going through, and I was just about to say, the fans should shut up and not criticize what we do. No, the fans, or whoever it is, these podcasters, and I'm in one of them, that is something that they will do. You've got to live with the fact that you're going to get people scrutinizing and, critiquing what you do. that's not just saying we're going to say everything was shit and everything was bad. No, we're going to say this was good, this could have been better, or this needed a little bit more time, or, whatever else it was, or this lacked the focus, or we thought, like, again, and I get, like, the idea of saying, well, fans are going to get what they get, and at a certain point we should accept that. To some extent, yes, but this is the business. You're in the business of trying to deliver things for the fans. So if the fans want to see something, then you've got to try to deliver something. The Rock, I think that probably was an over level of like expectation that the fans had in some ways, that the Rock might be involved in this. And I do feel like it should have been a little bit more clear, like perhaps that his match was going to be his last match and there shouldn't be a tease to him having another match in some ways. I think that it should have been clear that this is not going to be a match, that this is going to be, for at least for him, this is just going to be a story or whatever else it is between him and his minions or whatever else it is, and that sort of thing, and Cody or whoever, and that sort of thing. So I do think that was like a little bit like, well, maybe, like, I think they were probably trying to tease it or trying to say, hey, let's see if we can work this out. But they couldn't. So, and then they were like, well, people shouldn't have expected, The Rock at all. Like, dude, you were expecting The Rock, or you were trying to negotiate with The Rock. So, like, who had the expectation here? The fans or you? Or both? It's like, well, that doesn't really compute. That doesn't make sense. And for you to say, oh, the fans shouldn't expect this or that or whatever. They shouldn't get over expectations. Absolutely. That's something that ruins a lot of professional wrestling, I think, in many ways. Like, in terms of wrestling, and sometimes I over-expect things too. In terms of matches, in terms of feuds, or whatever. We all want to see the greatest wrestling ever whenever we see a match. But not every match all the time can be that. And sometimes, again, like, a match can be something decently very good, but yet it's like one of those things, like, just it's decently quite good, or it's quite good, or it's up there, or whatever else it is. It wasn't like the 10 out of 10 banger that people were kind of like hoping for, or whatever else it was. So that was like, the thought there, or the feeling there, that this was like, it didn't deliver, or whatever it was. But that's the wrestlers, At the end of the day, those were the decisions that were decided upon in the back or in the ring or whatever else it was when they were having or discussing having that match. This is what we're going to do. This is when we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. This is why we're going to do this and that, and why this is going to happen here, and then to move to here, and then to go to there, and all of that stuff. So it's an intricate process, of telling a story, and like my problem, I guess, with the Tessa Blanchard Masha Slamovich thing is that it's like, well, if Masha wins, which I expect that now, kind of thinking that she will, like, if she doesn't, then it's going to be a very weird set of circumstances and a very weird time. And I feel like things are, like, maybe not, but it's one of those things, because, again, like, a lot of people have bought out tickets for Rebellion. So it's like, yeah, but that's probably, like, almost a knife's edge in some ways. But then again, you might have people being like, refund of tickets or whatever. So you don't want that. You don't want people to, you want to create like I said before, a certain level of intrigue on the fans' minds or in their hearts or whatever else it is. They feel like, oh man, okay, even if like we don't like Tessa or whatever else it is, TNA has brought this person in and they have used them to their best abilities in the role that they decided to bring them in as. And if it's a 6-month run or whatever else it is for Tessa, maybe it's a little bit longer, I don't know. But again, if that's the goal for them and saying, okay, we're going to give her a run to Rebellion, whatever, or I always want to say SummerSlam. Slammiversary, or Bound for Glory, maybe. I don't know. But again, if you want to give her a run to that point or to one of those points, okay, cool. And on the way out, she's like putting people over. Okay, cool. You know, I think you can do that without having to put the title on her. The problem will be, okay, where does Marsha go from there? You know, who else does she face? Who else is her next opponent? What do you do with her from there? Type thing. And it is a very hard, like figuring things out and making things work. And there feels, and it's again, that's why again it's like, you know, maybe you could go back to having some NXT people coming in to challenge her. Of course, none of them are going to win the friggin' belt or whatever else it is. But it's all this stop-gapping stuff or whatever else it is just to keep, you know, the can going down the road, so to speak. And as I say, it's way easier to bring people in as heels to face the champion than it is to bring in baby faces to face the champion. It's like, just makes more sense to bring in heels. So that's kind of where I feel like things are at right now. But yeah, I kind of felt like before, like I was thinking, like you could do something, but I'm like, this set of reactions is just not something that they should be like not encouraging, but they should be continuing to follow through with. It's just something that isn't, you know, worth it anymore. You need to say, okay, we gave this a chance, you know, or whatever. I don't know what the specifics of her return deal were or whatever else it was and all of this. So it might just be a handshake. It might be for 6 months. It might be for 8 months. It might be for whatever it is. It might be for a year. I don't know. But again, saying that this thing hasn't paid off and saying that you should have done more to have it pay off is absolutely 100%. Like, and that's again where you need a strong leader or whatever else it is to be there and to be saying, okay, you know we've got to, you know, bring this thing, you know, to pasture or whatever, you know, like we've got to deliver for the fans. We tried to bring this person in to have some decent feuds with these people, you know, reading the room, reading the fans, not just saying we're going to plow ahead with our plans. We've got to, you know, really listen at some points and say, okay, even if you think the internet, like fans or whatever else it is, their opinion or the podcast, you know, people or whatever else it is, opinions don't matter. You don't want to alienate anyone from watching your product. That's the difference, you know. And if you had have done things properly, and maybe that's, as I said, still wouldn't have fixed the issue, but again, at least if you had have like tackled that issue head on and said, no, like we're bringing this person back, this is a decision that we have decided to make, and maybe it's not the most popular decision, but this person has repented and reformed, and they have worked their butt off for a few years now, or whatever it is. I don't know how long she was working before in Mexico and whatnot, after her return or whatever it was. And, now, at this point, we feel like this person does deserve a second chance, blah, 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 all this. So that's where we're at. But that is what, and here she is. She's here to, address it and sort of apologize or discuss the issues or whatever else it is. Again, even if it's not true, but again, that doesn't matter. This is where we're at with this. And, yeah, no, I feel like, you just can't do anything with it now. You've made this dead horse, and now you're expecting people to, eat from the dead horse. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. People are either going to literally riot or literally boycott the show or not buy the show if you continue down that path. So that will be hurtful ultimately for your business and ultimately for everything. Even if you have a great plan, it doesn't matter. At this point, you need to say, well, this hasn't worked. People are too focused on the racist stuff and we didn't really address it. So let's just stop. Let's, have her lose at Rebellion, and then she can go on some other few feuds or whatever else it is, or she can leave or whatever else it is, and then that's it. Once she's done with her other feuds, if she's going to have them, she's just going to move on. And we're going to move on without her, and we're going to find other people, and we're going to build other people in our division because, we brought her back and did this thing, and we tried to make it work, and we made some money together. Ultimately, that was it, so that is where I am at with this one. I hope you guys, I think you guys understand, and I think, most people should understand, but I think now we've got to convince or try to convince TNA management in some ways that this is not a good idea and that, try to go another way, do something else, figure something else out, whatever. So, even like, I don't want to encourage people to say we will riot or we will, ask for refunds or we will cancel our subscriptions or anything like that. But again, that is the sort of thing that they need to understand. This is where the fans are at. We don't believe in this. We think that this, person, no matter what, they should have been, if they're being brought in, they should be brought in properly. They should have a proper press conference about it and address the issues and, say, hey, this is where we're at and this is where we're going and this is the decision that's been made. So, but yeah. Guys, hope you have enjoyed Unbreakable. I certainly enjoyed it. As I said, a few things have sort of come out of that and a few discussions there and whatnot. So I think Rebellion will be a big show. And maybe a couple of pre-show matches will be announced probably closer to the date. But yeah, we'll wait and see. Again, some of the matches might be put just on the pre-show, whatever as well, that aren't as important or whatever. But we will wait and see. And yeah. Hope to hear from you guys then when we have that one. So I'll see you again in another one.